Hello, you're very welcome to part 2 of this talk on bereavement from Milford Care Centre. My name is Estelle and I'm a member of the bereavement team. It may be helpful for you to listen to the presentation with somebody else for support, and if that's not possible, perhaps to talk to them afterwards on the phone. You may like to listen to the whole talk together. It lasts about 10 minutes or a little bit, pause it and come back at another time. What I'm going to cover in this section is coping with bereavement, how to support a grieving person, grieving as a result of COVID, and then to mention resources, information and support available. This diagram is a helpful way to look at grief, the dual process model of coping with loss. If we think that these are like two islands, one is grief and one is life, when we're grieving initially, we're mostly focused on our grief island. We spend a little bit of time attending to what we need to in our life island, such as work or looking after children or other family members, but then we're back to grief again. Gradually, over time, the focus shifts to us spending more time on our life island, but grief is never far away and we can go back there, be immersed in grief again. And really, coping with bereavement is the process, which means we're constantly moving between these two places. They exist side by side. Sometimes if we're grieving intensely, we might feel we need to take a break from it, and that's okay. These are just some thoughts on things that may help you as you're coping with the loss of somebody. Having time to think about the person, maybe talking to others who knew them, that shared grief. Remembering happier times, sometimes it's difficult, but it can help you. Expressing emotions, whatever they are. Getting professional support if you need it. Understanding grief, and this talk is one way to do that, or maybe read a little bit about bereavement, and to look after yourself in every way, to rest, to eat, to exercise. To remember to be gentle with yourself. Don't expect too much. Remember that your grief is your own. It's very individual. That healing takes time and attention, and it can come in waves. And it's okay to take a break from the intense emotion. Things that may be unhelpful then, expecting too much of yourself, comparing yourself to others or your grief to others, depending on alcohol or drugs, or trying to avoid grief completely. This is from Mindfulness Ireland. It's just to say that as you're grieving, it's okay to have bad days, certainly, to not have all the answers. It's okay to let yourself cry, to ask for help, feel all the emotions, and it's certainly okay to make mistakes. To turn our attention for a moment to those who are supporting bereaved people, and this saying just tells us a lot, that the human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, and companioned exactly as it is. And if we're supporting bereaved people, we really are a companion in difficult times. So some thoughts, if you're supporting a bereaved person, to be present and attentive to that person, to acknowledge their loss and pain, to allow for moments of silence and reflection, to listen non-judgmentally and just accept them the way they are. Avoid those cliches. We all have them, we've all said them, but try to avoid them. To mention the deceased name and listen if the person wants to talk about them. To offer practical and emotional support. To understand that tears are certainly a normal and a healthy part of the grieving process. Don't try to fill in conversations with a lot of outside news. Remember that grief may take years to work through. Acknowledge anniversaries and special dates. And ask, don't tell the person what grief is like for them. Maybe avoid trying to cheer them up. Avoid giving advice. Don't tell your own story unless they ask you. Avoid talking about other grieving people or other sad stories. And certainly avoid judging where they're at. Although there are some of us who work very specifically in the area of bereavement support, informal support is vitally important. So for people who meet the bereaved in the course of their day-to-day work, particularly if they were involved in the care of the person who died, maybe in a nursing home or a hospital. So to acknowledge the loss, to welcome contact, bereaved families may like to visit the place where the person died, and this can be an important part of saying goodbye for them. To support them by listening, to share memories of the person if you knew them, to recognise the importance of endings, particularly now, to have information available perhaps on bereavement, or to signpost them to bereavement support in the locality, or to find it out for them. We're definitely living in exceptional times, very much changed in terms of end-of-life care and funeral rituals that we're very used to in Ireland. I think it's fair to say that there is a shared sense of grief and compassion in our communities for the families who've sadly been bereaved because of COVID or during this time. Your grief may be affected, certainly by how the person died, the suddenness of their illness and death, feeling that you didn't get to say goodbye, maybe other unfinished business, things not said or done, not being able to hold a normal funeral, feeling isolated now because of the loss of visitors, and a loss of that natural support network that would ordinarily be around you, a lack of physical comfort in a handshake or a hug. You may be feeling just lost, overwhelmed, a lack of control over what has happened, feeling regretful, lonely, angry, going over and over what has happened, finding it difficult to remember the person before this happened, and worried about the future. Or you may be feeling relieved that their suffering has ended. You may be grateful for the time that you did have with them or the care that they received. You may be comforted by the support and the kindness of others, or maybe a sense of peace. Some thoughts or ideas about coping. So coping in the present, first of all, is to take it hour by hour and day by day. Care for your very basic needs. Eat, drink water, rest, and take breaks. Stay connected with others as much as possible. Put one foot in front of the other and talk about the person. Reflect on all that you did for them rather than on what you weren't able to do. Share and receive memories of them that bring comfort. Acknowledge what you would have liked to have said to them, but you didn't get a chance, and say it now. Let your spiritual beliefs comfort you. Limit the amount of times you watch or hear the news. In the weeks and months to come, seek support in the community. That may just be over the telephone or it may be online. To speak to your GP if you're concerned about how you're coping. To mark something like the month's mind, even if you can't do it in a normal way or you're doing it in different places separately, still mark it. Maybe to put together a memory book about the person or start a grief journal about how you're feeling. And when we aren't able to talk to others, when we aren't able to meet people and express our grief, writing things down can really help. As time moves on then, and when it's possible, you might like to organise a memorial service as a way to honour the life of the person, to give an opportunity for your own loss to be acknowledged, and for you to receive the support of others. If you're supporting somebody then following a death from COVID, certainly send a message of sympathy in whatever way you can. Listen to the story and remember that the story doesn't change. Keep regular contact if they want this. Offer practical help. And don't underestimate the power of little acts of kindness. Remember that they will need warmth and friendship for some time to come. Just to let you know about the bereavement support service available at Milford. We do offer one-to-one support for families who are cared for by any of our services. At the moment, this is on the phone. Any bereaved person can avail of group support when this is available, and at the moment we're not sure when that will be. Groups are organised during the year for children, adolescents, bereaved partners, bereaved parents, adults grieving the death of their parent as well. We generally hold information evenings 4 times a year for general bereavement and 3 times a year for parents grieving the death of their child. Again, at the moment we're not able to open the centre for those information evenings. but our details will be available on our website when they're open again. We offer advice to parents on supporting their children if they're grieving, and we offer training and education on bereavement, and details are on the website. To access bereavement support, it's to phone the main Milford number 061 485 800 during office hours Monday to Friday. A person must refer themselves if they're over 18, and parents or guardians can refer children. There may be a waiting time for support, and all our services are free. I can recommend this website, the Irish Hospice Foundation. It's comprehensive information about bereavement, and just to check in with the website regularly as they are updating it frequently. Thank you for listening to the talk, and my wish for you is that you have the support that you need to get through this difficult time.